Welcome back to David Wilhelm's Pigskin Football Podcast. Today we're going to talk about the aftermath of Sunday and some more headlines across the NFL. Now, I predicted the Saints were going to win. And should they have? Yes. But if you look at it, you cannot blame the refs for this. As much as I hate to say it, because I'm a Drew Brees lover. I love Drew Brees. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I was rooting for him. I wanted him to get a second ring. And just like most of New Orleans fans, I was mad. It's like the refs just cost him the Super Bowl. The NFL's rigged, all this stuff. But then I thought about it for a couple days. They went up 13-0 at home and lost. They should have never been in that situation. So we can sit here and discuss how the refs ruined it. And they did. If they would have made the call, Saints would have milked the clock with 7 seconds left, kicked the field goal, easily won. But the Saints never, ever should have been in that position. Ever. Drew Brees was awful in the second half. And that interception, I'm not going to blame that on Brees because he was hit as it was thrown. If I was Michael Thomas, I would have held him. I would have got just a flag and moved back instead of letting him go get that wide open interception. That's what I would have done if I was Mike Thomas. And he was starting to, and then he let him go for some reason. I don't know what he was thinking. But he let him go for that game-sealing interception. Which, I don't know. Which, by the way, there are fans in New Orleans that are suing the NFL for this game. They want the last 5 minutes of the game redone, which is not going to happen. But a lawsuit was filed, and it is a real lawsuit. So interesting to see what happens there. On to the Patriots and Chiefs game. What a game, honestly. It was a snooze fest in the first half. But in that second half, fourth quarter especially, was fun. 2 overtime games on Sunday. But this one just was your classic Tom Brady in the game. He just was efficient. The run game really carried him. The Chiefs defense ranked 31st in the league. And it showed Sunday night. If they had a better defense by 4 spots, I think the Chiefs would have won that game. But they could not stop the run game, and then they would buy on play action. The Chiefs' defense is so bad that they kind of don't deserve to be in the Super Bowl based on their defense alone. Because defense wins championships. And as the Chiefs learned the hard way on Sunday night, in overtime against Tom Brady, that their defense was not very good. Now, moving on to the Le'Veon Bell saga. He's clearly leaving Pittsburgh. Where is he going to go? I don't know. I don't know who would want him. Because they're going to have to pay him quarterback-type money to get him. And I just don't think it's a good fit for any roster right now. Maybe the Jets or the Niners, but those are the only 2 options. A lot of people are thinking Indianapolis, the most cap space in the league. They need another dynamic playmaker. But if I was the Colts, why would I ruin what the locker room is right now? Coming off this miracle season of Andrew Luck and Frank Wright, why would you add a guy like Le'Veon to that locker room? Marlon Mack is no world beater by any stretch of the imagination. But when you got an offensive line like the Colts, you don't need a top running back. Although it helps, Le'Veon Bell would change games. But I just don't think the Colts need him. I think they need to invest a little bit more on their defense, as you could tell from the Chiefs game. And they need to invest in wide receivers. Now, Le'Veon Bell could be argued as wide receiver / running back why he demands so much money. But he's just not a good locker room fit for the Colts, I think. I think in San Francisco or New York, I think he'd be a good fit there. That's my opinion on Le'Veon Bell. Now, another Steeler in a high drama is Antonio Brown. My guess is he's getting traded before the season starts in the middle of March. He's done in Pittsburgh as well. I mean, everything that's came out about it. Where would he go? The Colts, I don't want to harp on the Colts, but they need both of those positions, and they got the money to do it. But if I was the Colts, do I take a 30-year-old receiver that has over $10 million cap space for 1 year? Or do I draft a rookie like N'Keal Harry out of Arizona State and try to develop him over 4 years, except for an expensive rental for a year? Maybe both. You've got the cap space to do both. I mean, I think that'd be a dynamic offense with T.Y. and Antonio Brown with a 6'4" receiver, plus Ebron, and if Mac can improve, that would be a fun offense to watch, in my opinion. But I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be quite a bit of offense fireworks show. And finally, to wrap things up here, if you look at the Los Angeles Rams heading to the Super Bowl, beat the Cowboys and the Saints in the playoffs. If you look at their roster, there's one thing they did in the offseason that not a lot of teams did. They looked at their roster, Les Snead and Sean McVay. They sat down and saw they had Jared Goff on a rookie contract. That means they have quite a bit of money to spend elsewhere. So what do? They make Todd Gurley the highest paid player at his position ever. They signed Aaron Donald, a defensive tackle, to the biggest defensive player contract in the history of the NFL. They went out and traded a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick for Marcus Peters to the Chiefs in the offseason. All pro. Is still on his rookie deal. He's cheap. He's only $1 million. He's got a $9 million player option for the next season. And then they weren't done. They went out to get him a bookend in acquiring 32-year-old Aqib Talib from the Denver Broncos for a fifth-round pick. And then they go out and trade a first-round pick for Brandon Cooks on offense, a dynamic, really fast receiver that can change the game. They made him 5 years, over $50 million guaranteed. Pretty nice contract. And the guy's only like 23. I mean, he's young. So what does that tell you? With good head coach and a good front office, good drafting, good player progression on a rookie quarterback deal, you go all in and it brings you championships. Now granted, they haven't won the Super Bowl yet. But if I had to bet money, I would bet the Rams to win the Super Bowl. It's the new school versus the old school. And I think the old school's out of time. I think Belichick is not going to be able to get a good defensive strategy against Sean McVay and Jared Goff. Let me remind you, the Rams won on Sunday against the Saints in the Superdome, one of the hardest places to play, and Todd Gurley barely touched the ball. Think about that. Todd Gurley barely doing anything, and they still beat one of the best teams in the NFL. To me, that's just mind-boggling, because if you told me before that game that Todd Gurley was going to do hardly anything and they're still going to win, I'd tell you no, they're not. Because that's just not what you would think. Anybody would think. The best player on the team, besides Aaron Donald, is Todd Gurley. And if their best player is barely doing anything, then there would be a problem. I'd be like, they're going to get wiped out of the building. And instead, they wiped Saints fans out of the building on a heartbreaker 58-yard field goal in overtime to win the game 26-23. That's all I've got today, folks. Enjoy, and I'll be making a new video later this week. Tell me what you want to hear.